And what it is a resolution asking the State Democratic Executive Committee to place a referendum question on the primary ballot in March. And the referendum question would read, the text that I have now, it's about Iraq. The text that I have now could be changed by the State Democratic Executive Committee because it's up to them to decide on the final language. Basically, it's a resolution gauging public opinion on whether or not we should get out of Iraq and end the war. And so what it says, shall President George W. Bush and the U.S. Congress, in support of the men and women serving in the armed forces of the United States, end the U.S. occupation of Iraq and immediately begin the safe and orderly withdrawal of all United States forces. Now, I crafted this without a date saying when it should end. I said it should shall begin immediately and end with all United States forces out. My idea is that I hope that when we have another election and the new president takes office on January 20th, that by January 20th, 1 year later, all the United States forces will be out. I think that's reasonable. Some people say 6 months. I think that's kind of fast. So it's a moderate proposition, a year. It would take a year to get everybody out. And of course, 6 months ago, I was very optimistic about all the Democratic candidates. And the last debate or so, I heard some of them say that they don't think we can get all the troops out by the end of the first term of whoever's elected. So I'm a little bit less optimistic than I was 6 months ago. But I think one of the purposes of this resolution, of this referendum, and it may be the only one of its kind in the nation because Schwarzenegger vetoed the referendum in Iraq in California. It was passed by the California Senate and the House, but he vetoed it. So we may be the only one. Wisconsin's also working on it. But one of the purposes of it is to have a dialogue with the candidates so that they know how we feel. We want them to know that this is a high priority. I mean, of course, they know it's the #1 issue, but we want them to know that it's a high priority for us, and I expect that 80-90% would hopefully vote in favor of it. So when they come down here, if the presidential election is still at a point where it hasn't yet been decided, I think that we could have a big impact if they have to come down here and address the issue. Well, it's Bill Richardson, and he's a neighboring state. He's saying, get everybody out, don't leave any residual ones in there. Maybe the top 3 candidates will have to move more towards what we want them to do, which is end the war and bring everybody home. I mean, you probably saw the news this morning where the latest figures, just this 1 year, 2007, 2008, the war is going to cost $200 billion. And when Bush said in 2003, we're going to go in there and it's only going to cost $50 billion, 50 to 60. And they say now that if we don't get everybody out by the Congressional Budget Office is saying by 2017, we're going to be spending over $2 trillion in the war. And so, that's not the main reason that I say get out of the war, although that's an important reason that we should take in mind that it's going to cost us, take money away from health, education, welfare, except all these other resources. I do have something you can sign online. You go to votusoutofiraq.org and you can sign the petition online. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance. .org. The SEC has the authority to put referendum questions usually there's one and maybe.
Okay. And you're just asking us to endorse it.
To endorse it and by you endorsing it, you should tell the SEC.
We want them to vote favorably. I am advised that we do have a quorum, and there is a motion that has been seconded on the floor that we not adopt the resolution, but that we endorse the proposed Texas Democratic Party primary ballot referendum on ending the war in Iraq and bringing the troops home. And I'm going to read it again before we take the vote. Shall President George W. Bush and the U.S. Congress, in support of the men and women serving in the armed forces of the United States, end the U.S. occupation of Iraq and immediately begin the safe and orderly withdrawal of all United States forces? So the motion on the table is whether or not we endorse that to the Texas Democratic Party and urge its adoption by the party.
With all the publicity that's come out about all these private companies that are over there and providing, I mean, for him to pull the troops out, why don't we have something in there that says that includes not, funding some kind of private army or private security force from the United States to still be there.
I think Blackwater is discredited enough right now that it may not.
Well, not
Be in
necessarily
there very much
Blackwater, but
longer
it
anyhow.
could be anyway.
There's three.
Well, I think that if we pulled out the armed forces, I don't think that private contractors are going to stay behind on their own. I mean,
Depends on the money.
certainly Be on the U.S. government.
Well, that's the point.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should be.
I just don't, yeah.
On that point, our government, our people are as accountable for what we pay a contractor to do as we are what we draft or pay citizens to do. It's the same thing,
Yeah,
the same
but-
accountability, so it's,
I mean,
I
the
think it's
mercenaries
covered.
is what they are. Any other discussion? We're discussing, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Becky?
I just have some discussion on, I agree with the resolution, but you know, it's hard to pass resolutions at any level, and we're not gonna have the money to really work this to make sure that people go down to that portion of the ballot to pass this.
Down the state party?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, if it gets on the ballot, let's say the Democratic Party agrees to put it on our primary ballot as a referendum, how are we gonna work 254 counties to make sure our Democrats go all the way down and do that? And
One idea I had was to ask the presidential candidates to put a little thing on their literature that says, vote us out of Iraq. And whenever they pass it out, it takes, of course, they haven't talked about that.
Mark?
I think that having it on the ballot is a draw to get people to decide to vote in the Democratic primary. There is a huge popular opinion that the war is wrong. And so just by putting it out there, I think we're giving people an opportunity to identify the Democratic Party and also just be motivated. What are we vote? What candidates? Oh, there's a resolution. Because when you're a precinct judge, you know, people come in and they want to vote for a certain thing. I think it's great to have it on there. I don't think we have to exert any particular resources to campaign to pass it. It's a straw poll of the people.
Mike, you have your hand up.
Also, the more people see and hear any sort of opposition, the more they're willing to express their own opposition.
Jordan?
I'd like to call it there.
Question has been called on the motion. So we'll now have a vote on the motion as previously stated. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it. So we will, I guess what we will do is send something to the state party indicating that we
Scott, can I ask you, you said that South Austin Democrats, Central Austin Democrats, Lake Travis Democrats, Capillary Progressive Democrats, West Austin Democrats, and North Line Northwest Democrats have all endorsed this. What have they done? Have they,
They just passed the exact same thing.
and then have they put it on their letterhead and then send it off to the state party? What's the next step?
Yeah, they have to.
Okay, because that's what we'll do. We'll put it on our letterhead, we'll forward it to the state party. I'm just curious what all these other clubs.
Yeah, that'd be great, that's a good idea.
Okay, okay.
Is there any kind of,
Thank you very much, everybody.
any kind of, any kind